Today is the second day of chapter 6. Today we're going to talk about parallelograms. So get your notes out, find the parallelograms page. That's where we'll get started. So we're going to discuss 6 properties of parallelograms today. We'll start with the definition of a parallelogram. So quadrilateral just means 4 sides, right? So if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So you can go ahead and mark those as being parallel. We know the double, like the arrows on 2 lines, these guys, means parallel. If you have 2 sets, you just add another arrow, okay? So these 2 are parallel and these 2 are parallel. So you should have that written part already in your table. You just add the parallel marks, okay? The next one. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, we also know that the opposite sides are congruent. So they're parallel, that's with the arrows. They're also the same length. So they're congruent. So on the next box, mark them as being congruent. So the ones across are going to be parallel and congruent. Okay? Next one, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the opposite angles are congruent. So the angles across from each other are also congruent. Next, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the consecutive angles are supplementary. Consecutive means right in a row. Supplementary means add to 180. So if this is your parallelogram, x plus y would equal 180. Any x plus any y. Add to 180. So these 2 add to 180, these 2 add to 180, these 2 add to 180, these 2 add to 180. Any like next door neighbor angles, consecutive angles, will add to 180. Questions on that one? All right. Theorem 6.5 says that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other. What does it mean to bisect? It makes 2 congruent parts, right? So if they bisect each other, that means that this one cuts this one right down the middle, and this one cuts this one right down the middle. So these 2 are going to be congruent, and these 2 are going to be congruent. They cut each other right in the middle. All right, and the next one, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the alternate interior angles are congruent. So do you guys remember the whole parallel lines with the transversal idea we did last semester? Yeah. The problems looked more like this, like we had parallel lines with the transversal, right? It's the same idea here, except these are parallel. And these are the alternate interior angles. Okay, so it's kind of something we already knew. But now it's just happening inside a figure. Any questions? All right. Oh, yep, sorry, I forgot those were going to pop up. So both pairs of alternate interior angles. So these 2... and these 2. Questions? No. Not this way. All right, example 1 says determine whether the following quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So is this a parallelogram?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No.
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 Yeah. No.
Yes.
Well, it's one or the other. Let's see if we can get a little bit more. Why would you think it's a parallelogram?
Because it's parallel.
Okay, so the trick is both pairs of opposite sides need to be parallel, or both pairs of opposite sides need to be congruent.
It's not.
So are these...
No, because one's smaller than the other one.
Right, so these two are parallel, these two are not parallel. These two are congruent, these two are not congruent. You can't mix and match, okay? So this is a no, only one pair of opposite sides is congruent, or you could say only one pair of opposite sides is parallel, depending on which pair of sides you're looking at. So they both need to be congruent, or they both need to be parallel. You can't mix and match. Questions? All right, here's number 2. It says determine whether the following quadrilaterals are parallelograms. Is this one a parallelogram? Yes. Why would you say yes? Okay, I heard a few people say the word sides. Do I know anything about the sides? Did they give me anything in this diagram about the sides? No. But they did tell me what about the angles? They're congruent. So yes, you could say both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. You could also say that the consecutive angles are supplementary, right? 90 plus 90 is 180. 90 plus 90 is 180. Depends which way you go. But there's a lot of these more than one reason is going to work. Here's one of those. So opposite angles are congruent. Number 3 says, determine whether the following quadrilaterals are parallelograms. So is this a parallelogram?
Yeah. No.
So we have next door neighbor angles, right?
Yep.
They're called consecutive angles. What should be true? They should add to 180. Does 110 plus 73 equal 180? It does not. So this is going to be a no. Consecutive angles are not supplementary. All right, number 4 says find the value of x and y in the parallelogram. So, do you see how opposite sides are parallel? So it's a parallelogram. What do I know about the angles in a parallelogram? The opposite angles are congruent. So if this guy's 70, what should y be?
70.
70. Now, what do I know about consecutive angles? They add to 180. So anyone know what x is right away? 110. Very good. So those are the theorems that we just talked about. No, you don't need to write the green. That's just what we said out loud. The reason why. The things that I need to see are this and then this right here. So again, opposite angles are congruent. Angles across from one another are equal. So if this is 70, y is 70. Angles that are next door are supplementary, so they add to 180. So x plus 70 equals 180. Subtract the 70, you get 110. If you did this one in your head, I would not panic. What are your questions?
No questions this Monday.
It's good. All right. Here's a tricky one. Any ideas where we could start?
At the X.
How?
Because the X and the 36 and it's the same height. And it's the same thing, the 36 and the X.
Don't you add 36 and 110 to get 180?
All right, we got lots of guessing going on. Anyone have an actual...
Yes.
Look back at that chart. Was there anything that looks like what I'm looking at?
Oh, the quadrilateral is a quadrilateral, and then it's diagonal. This bisect each other.
Okay, the diagonals bisect each other. You're getting warmer, but we only have one diagonal, so that's not super helpful. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So which one is an alternate interior angle with the 36-degree angle? The Y. So yes, Y is 36. Now, chill it out, guys. Okay. Now, this next step, you got to go back before Christmas break. What do you know about the interior angles of a triangle? Yes.
They all add up to 180.
Yeah, so once I know that this one's 36 and this one's 110,
You can subtract them from 180, and that's what x equals.
yep, you can subtract those two measures from 180 and you should get your value for x. Here is how you'd write the equation. A lot of times that chapter we didn't write equations, we just did 180 minus minus. Either way, I'm okay with it. You forget to carry a 10 or something? That's a good. All right, questions so far? Similar directions, but totally different type of problem. In the previous one, we were talking about the angle measures. Here we're talking about the side lengths, but we're still looking for an x and a y. Any ideas? Maybe look back at your chart about information we know about the side length.
Oh, this is then both pairs of opposite sides are parallel.
Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. I already knew that. Go to the next box. Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. So if I want to find the x, I can set 2x minus 1 equal to 9. All right, so what am I going to do next? Add 1 to both sides. Divide both sides by 2. Good. X equals 5. All right, how am I going to find the y? Same thing. 2y equals 4. Divide by 2. Y equals 2. Questions? All right, here's number 7. Look back at your box. What do you think this might? Yes. The diagonals bisect each other. So how am I going to find either variable? How would you find the x?
6x equals 18.
6x equals 18. Yes, make sure you're staying in the same diagonal. How would you find the y? 3y plus 2 equals 14. So those are your two equations. It doesn't matter which one you start with. This set of notes starts with the y. Yeah, so we're going to subtract 2 from both sides to get 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. But yes, the other one's going to be 3 because we have 6x equals 18 like we discussed. When you divide by 6, you get 3. Questions?
Oh, I was supposed to.
All right, same directions. We're finding X, we're finding Y, but now we're looking at angles. We know a few different things about the angles. What do I know first?
They symmetry.
What equals 180?
X and Y.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to, if you want to add these together, that would equal 180. However, you can't have one equation with two variables and get a single solution. So that's not false what you said, but it's not going to help us arrive at an answer. We got to use the angle that we know. So how does this angle relate to either one of these?
It's the same as the diagonal one.
Okay, it's the same as the one across. We call those opposite angles. So in order to find the y, you can set 5y plus 10 equal to 65. Okay, before I do that, let's just brainstorm real quick. How do these two relate? They add to 180. So you can find x and y using this angle right here, okay? The easier one is the opposite angles congruent one, so we'll start there. So 5y plus 10 equals 65. Then what? Subtract 10 from both sides. Yep, divide by 5, you get 11. All right, and what do we say for x?
32.
How do I start it?
2x minus 3.
2x minus 3. What am I going to do with the 2x minus 3? Add it to
65.
equals 180. Yes, consecutive angles are supplementary. Supplementary means adds to 180. All right, then what? Subtract. Oh, yeah, so we combine the like terms. So negative 3 plus 65 or 65 minus 3. Careful on this. A lot of people would put it's like a negative 68 or something. Remember, this is a negative 3. This is a positive. So you subtract them, keep the sign of the larger number. From here, what do I do? Yeah, I'm going to subtract 62 from both sides. And then divide both sides by 2. Correct. Questions? So fill in the missing angle measures. So you kind of just got to pick a starting spot and run with it and hope you can figure the rest of them out. So we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. So if this guy's 50, we know this guy's over here is 50. If this guy's 30, this guy's 30. If this guy's 37, this guy's 37. So it's across the figure on the other side of the diagonal. So those are the three I'm going to fill in first. So there we get a 50. There we get a 37. And up top we get a 30. Again, you go across the diagonal to the other side of the figure. 50 and 50, 37, 37, 30, 30. All right. Any Ideas where we could go from here? Yes.
50 and 30 minus 180 to get what E is.
Yeah, so we can find this guy right here, since we have two angles of a triangle, subtract them from 180. That'll actually give you both of these. Okay? So I'm going to do 180 minus 30 minus 50. So that's a 100. Now these are vertical angles, so that one's 100. All right, from there, any ideas? Do you guys remember the term linear pair?
Yeah, you can take 100 minus 180 to get
Other way around, but yep. So a linear pair is where they form a line. So two angles right next to each other make a line. Add to 180. So if this one's 100, this one's 80. And then we have vertical angles again. So you can fill in both of those, 80 and 80. Now, we only have two angles that are missing, and they actually happen to be congruent to one another because it's another set of alternate interior angles. Any ideas how we're going to find either one of these?
80 and 37 minus 180.
Yep. Here we have another triangle with two angles, so 180 minus minus. That'll give us this guy. These two are congruent. They're alternate interiors. So again, 180 minus 80 minus 37 is 63. Alternate interiors again give us 63 on the other side. All right, I'm going to leave that one up there for a minute. It was kind of tricky. Real quick before I give you your homework, the schedule for the week is on the board. It was up there Friday when you were in here as well. We have a quiz on Thursday. So although it was a very slow week last week, there wasn't a lot happening between me not being here a couple days, but we're going to make up for it this week. We're going to go.
Thursday, what Thursday?